Welcome, everyone, to this deep dive. Today, we're getting into something I think we all feel, why some moments, some feelings from way back when just seem to stick around and really influence how we experience things now.
It's such a core part of being human, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Those experiences that,
Yeah.
well, they just don't feel quite finished. They have this amazing power to sort of color your present reality.
Exactly. And to really get our heads around this, we're going to look at it through the lens of Gestalt psychology. The main idea there is about how you perceive things, right? Like you naturally see the world in whole patterns, meaningful shapes, not just bits and pieces.
Precisely. It's about that constant interplay between you, the individual, and your environment.
Yeah.
Gestalt offers a really powerful framework for understanding how we organize our experiences, this sort of innate drive we have to find wholeness and meaning.
Okay, yeah. And there's this image that really struck me, this idea of an unlatched door. Just picture walking down a street and you see a door just slightly ajar, maybe it's even creaking a bit. It's so simple, but it grabs your attention, doesn't it? That feeling of something being incomplete, unresolved.
That's such a great metaphor. It really captures how certain experiences stay active in our minds. They're not like neat, filed away memories. They're still present, still asking for something.
And that's the crux of it, really. These aren't just ghosts from the past. These unlatched doors could be unspoken words, feelings you kind of pushed down, dreams you abandoned. They're actively shaping how you see things today.
Absolutely. They get woven into the actual fabric of your perception right now. It's like these unresolved bits create this subtle hum underneath everything, influencing what you notice and how you interpret it all.
Okay, let's try and unpack that a bit. One thing that comes to mind is the Zeigarnik effect. You know, like when a song gets stuck in your head?
The earworm.
Right. It's like your brain latching onto something unfinished. Is that kind of what's happening here with these life experiences?
That's a great connection. The Zeigarnik effect, yeah, named after Bruno Zeigarnik, basically describes how our minds tend to remember incomplete or interrupted tasks much better than completed ones. It's like the task stays active in your thoughts because it's not resolved. An open loop sort of running in the background.
So the unlatched door stays in view, mentally speaking, because it represents something that hasn't been fully processed, closed off.
Exactly. There seems to be this fundamental drive in us towards completion, towards closing those loops. When something's left unfinished, it just keeps exerting this pull on our attention.
Like that nagging feeling when you know you've forgotten something, but you can't quite place it. That's the door.
Precisely that feeling. And these unlatched doors in your psyche, these unresolved issues, they can carry a real weight, often without you even realizing the extent of it.
So it's not always these huge, dramatic memories we're consciously wrestling with?
Not at all. Often it's much more subtle. It might be a thought that just keeps popping up, seemingly out of nowhere. Or a persistent feeling of unease, maybe anxiety you can't pin down. Or even physical things, that tightness in your chest, the knot in your stomach that don't seem connected to anything obvious happening right now.
Like background static you've just gotten used to.
Exactly. And this ties right into a key Gestalt idea, the figure-ground relationship. Think about looking for your keys.
Okay.
They might be right there on the table, but if your attention is grabbed by, say, a worrying email on your phone, the email becomes the figure, the focus, and the keys just blend into the ground, the background clutter.
Right. I get that. So how does that work with these unresolved issues?
Well, our attention naturally gravitates towards what feels incomplete or demanding. That unlatched door on the street jumps out, becomes the figure against the ground of the normal expected scene. In the same way, unresolved issues from the past can suddenly rise up, becoming the figure demanding your attention, even if you're trying to focus on your present life.
So even if you're trying to work or relax, this unfinished stuff can keep elbowing its way forward in your mind.
It can, yeah. And this weight we carry, it often wears disguises. It can look like personality quirks, or typical emotional reactions, maybe ingrained habits you don't even question anymore.
You mentioned someone always seeking validation. How does that fit the unlatched door idea?
Well, someone who constantly needs external approval might be unconsciously trying to get a need met that wasn't met in the past.
Ah.
Maybe, say, they had a parent who was very critical or just never gave praise. That unmet need for approval is like an unlatched door. So seeking validation now is an attempt, often unconscious, to finally get that door open, to get the acceptance that was missing back then.
This makes a lot of sense. You're trying to fix the past and the present without even realizing it. Now, you also flag repetitive thoughts as a key sign.
Yes, definitely. Repetitive thoughts are often like little signals, little alarms, telling you something in your experience hasn't been fully digested or integrated.
They're not just random mental noise.
Not usually, no. They often point directly towards those fragmented areas, those unlatched doors sort of swinging in the breeze of your awareness.
You used an analogy, something about a stone in a pond, one dropped in versus one suspended.
Right. So imagine tossing a stone into a still pond. It makes ripples, they spread out, and then the water settles. That's like a resolved experience. The energy flows, integrates, finds peace.
Okay.
Now picture a stone hanging just above the surface, never quite hitting the water. There's this potential energy, this constant tension, creating a kind of subtle turbulence in your awareness.
Ah, I see.
Repetitive thoughts are often like those ripples from the potential impact, the ongoing turbulence from something unresolved.
Because the original splash never fully happened or settled within you. You mentioned Sarah, the executive worried about approval. How did her thoughts link to an unlatched door?
Right. Sarah's constant worry about her colleagues judging her work.
Hmm.
It likely wasn't just about the current project pressure. Looking through a Gestalt lens, you might see it echoing an earlier dynamic. Perhaps her father rarely praised her efforts as a child.
Okay.
So the repetitive thoughts about her colleagues now become a present-day replay of that old unlatched door. That unmet need for her father's approval is still seeking resolution, but is getting projected onto her current work situation.
Wow. So the past is basically setting the script for her present anxiety, which leads to this point about perception. We tend to think we see things objectively, but Gestalt says, not so much.
Not really, no. Gestalt emphasizes that perception isn't just passively receiving info. It's an active process of organizing and interpreting what comes in through your senses. You don't just see what's out there. Your history, your unresolved stuff actively shapes how you see it.
So those unlatched doors aren't just messing with thoughts and feelings, they're actually changing how we perceive reality itself. Like putting on tinted glasses.
Exactly like tinted glasses. Your unresolved baggage acts like a filter, coloring your view of current events, relationships, everything.
And this relates to Gestalt formation, right? How we piece things together to make a meaningful whole. Like putting together clues to figure out a situation.
Precisely. Think of a jigsaw puzzle. Each piece alone is just a fragment.
Right.
Only when they click together properly do you see the whole picture, the Gestalt. Our experiences work like that too. When we resolve things, integrate lessons, we build a more coherent, meaningful life story.
But if you have these unlatched doors, these missing puzzle pieces, it stops that whole picture from forming clearly.
Exactly. Those unresolved conflicts, those gaps, they hinder Gestalt formation. You end up with a fragmented view, where the past keeps bleeding into the present and distorting your understanding of what's actually happening now.
Like the example of two people seeing the same argument. One sees a minor blip, the other sees total disaster based on their own past hurts.
That's a perfect illustration. Someone with a history of unresolved betrayal might see that argument as proof the friendship is doomed, because that interpretation resonates with their own unclosed chapters.
It really drives home how these unlatched doors aren't just memories stored away somewhere, they're living things in our present.
Precisely. They exert this gravitational pull on our thoughts, feelings, behaviors. It's not just about remembering the past. It's about how these unresolved bits continue to exist within our current field of awareness.
Field of awareness. Can you unpack that a little?
Sure. Think of your field of awareness as everything you're experiencing in this very moment, thoughts, feelings, sensations, the environment around you, all of it together.
Okay, the whole immediate reality.
Yes. And unresolved experiences, those unlatched doors, they linger within this field, creating distortions. So back to Sarah.
Yeah.
Echoes of her father's lack of praise aren't just memories. They are embedded in her field of awareness when she interacts with colleagues. They subtly shape how she perceives their feedback, maybe hearing criticism where none was intended.
Wow, so it's all interconnected in that field. Like a knot in a tapestry, maybe, affecting the whole pattern.
That's a beautiful way to put it. Yes, everything in the field is interconnected. Unresolved issues create tension, like knots, disrupting the overall harmony and flow.
And this brings us back to figure ground again, doesn't it? How these things grab our attention.
It does. We talked about how attention goes to the incomplete. Sometimes unresolved experiences can force themselves into the foreground, becoming the figure.
They hijack your attention.
Exactly, like that unlatched door just demanding you look at it. When the past dominates the figure in your awareness, it really narrows your perspective.
How so?
Well, you become so focused on that unresolved issue or the feelings connected to it that you can't fully see or engage with what's actually happening in the present. You miss possibilities, nuances, alternative interpretations.
Like being in a forest, but all you can see are the tangled branches right in front of your face, blocking the view of the path ahead.
Precisely. Those branches are the unlatched doors, obscuring the wider landscape of the present moment.
So why does this happen? Why do these things persist? Is there a reason we crave closure?
There absolutely is. Gestalt psychology talks about an innate human drive towards wholeness, completion, and meaning. It's sometimes called the law of pregnance.
Pregnance.
Yeah, it basically means we prefer things that are simple, stable, complete. Think about seeing an incomplete circle C. Your mind almost automatically wants to close the gap, right? To see O.
Yeah, it does feel unfinished.
So unresolved experiences create similar gaps in our psychological gestalts. This creates tension and inner pressure to find resolution, to close that circle.
But often we don't close it right. We avoid it.
We do. And avoidance is a common coping mechanism. But paradoxically, trying to push these issues away, trying to keep them firmly in the ground, often just perpetuates the tension.
How does that work?
Think of trying to hold a beach ball underwater.
Okay. Hard work.
Right. It takes constant effort, and eventually it's likely to pop up unexpectedly, maybe forcefully, somewhere else. Unresolved issues are like that. Pushed down, they can resurface in surprising ways. Dreams, sudden anxieties, physical symptoms, seemingly irrational fears.
Physical symptoms, really? How does emotional stuff turn physical?
This touches on another fascinating Gestalt concept, isomorphism. It suggests a structural similarity, a correspondence between our mental or emotional states and our physiological states.
Mind-body connection, essentially.
Exactly. Unresolved emotional baggage, anger, grief, fear that hasn't been processed can literally manifest in the body.
Like what?
Oh, things like chronic muscle tension, tight shoulders, clenched jaw, headaches, fatigue, digestive issues, sometimes even contributing to more significant chronic illnesses.
Yeah.
The body holds the score, as they say.
Can you give an example?
Sure. Imagine someone who learned early on that expressing anger was unsafe or unacceptable. They might suppress it throughout their childhood.
Sure.
As an adult, even if the original situation is long gone, that pattern of suppression might continue, leading to something like chronic jaw tension from clenching, or perhaps unexplained stomach aches, because that's where they hold their unprocessed anger.
Wow. So the body literally keeps hold of the unfinished business. How do we even start to deal with all this? Where does change begin?
Change often begins with insight. That aha
Moment.
the light bulb moment.
Exactly.
It's not just intellectual understanding, though. Insight is often a more visceral shift in perception. It's like suddenly turning on a light in a room you've only navigated in dimness. You see the connections, the patterns, in a new way.
What happens in that moment?
Insight usually involves bringing unconscious material, feelings, beliefs, patterns connected to those unlatched doors into conscious awareness, and crucially, reframing it, seeing it differently so it can be integrated.
So back to Sarah again. What would insight look like for her?
For Sarah, insight might be the sudden deep realization. Wow, this intense fear of my colleagues judging me. It feels exactly like how I felt waiting for my father's approval. This isn't just about the presentation. This is that old feeling.
That connection.
Yes. Seeing that link allows her to separate the past from the present, to potentially respond differently to her colleagues because she understands the deeper root of her anxiety.
And how does insight happen? Does it just pop up?
It can feel like that sometimes, but it usually arises from awareness, which is a cornerstone of Gestalt therapy. Awareness means paying close, non-judgmental attention to your present experience. Your thoughts, your feelings, your bodily sensations, your interactions.
Just noticing.
Just noticing, yes. Without immediately trying to fix or change anything. This steady observation allows the underlying patterns, the figures hiding in the ground, to emerge into view. That's where insight comes from within, through paying attention.
That makes sense. Just observing what's actually there. What about how we see other people? Does this unfinished business affect that too?
Oh, absolutely. This leads us to the idea of projection.
Projection, like
Yeah.
projecting a movie onto a screen.
Kind of, yeah. Psychologically, projection is when we unconsciously attribute aspects of ourselves, often qualities, feelings, or impulses we don't want to acknowledge in ourselves, onto other people.
Like seeing your own reflection in a window and thinking it's someone else looking back at you.
That's a good analogy.
Yeah.
You're mistaking something internal for something external. For instance, someone who constantly accuses others of being unreliable
Yeah.
might actually be struggling with their own deep-seated self-doubt about their reliability. But it's easier or safer to see that flaw out there in others rather than owning it themselves.
So how I perceive others often says more about my unlatched doors than about them.
It can certainly be a powerful mirror, yes.
Yeah.
Our judgments and strong reactions to others often point towards our own unresolved issues, our own projections.
This is quite a lot to take in. If these unresolved things cause so much trouble, anxiety, physical tension, distorted perceptions, why do we cling to them? It seems counterintuitive.
It does, doesn't it? But there's a kind of paradox here. Sometimes, even painful, unresolved experiences can provide a strange sense of structure or identity.
How so?
Well, knowing the story of why you are the way you are, even if it's a difficult story rooted in past hurt, can feel more predictable, more controllable in a weird way, than facing the uncertainty of letting it go and changing.
Like constantly replaying a bad breakup in your mind. It hurts, but it's familiar.
Exactly. It keeps the narrative going, gives you a role to play, even if it's the victim or the misunderstood one. Also, these unresolved gestalts, these patterns, can become deeply intertwined with our sense of self.
Part of who you think you are.
Yes. Letting go of the grievance or the old narrative can feel frighteningly like losing a part of yourself, even if that part is causing you pain. It's often not just the events themselves, but the meaning we've assigned to them, the stories we tell ourselves about them that keep us stuck.
So it's about the story we've built around the unlatched door, not just the door itself.
Very much so. And this is where the Gestalt emphasis on awareness and responsibility comes in.
Responsibility? That sounds heavy. Like blame.
Not blame, no. That's a crucial distinction. Responsibility here means recognizing and acknowledging our role in perpetuating these patterns in the present. It's about seeing how we keep the story going, how we react based on those old filters.
Owning your part in the present dynamic.
Exactly. It's linked to another key Gestalt idea, contact. Contact means fully engaging with your present reality, the environment, other people, your own feelings moment by moment. Avoidance, dwelling on the past, projection. These all break contact with the present.
Okay.
Reclaiming responsibility, then, is about restoring that contact.
Right.
It means acknowledging all parts of your experience, even the uncomfortable bits connected to those unlatched doors, without judgment. It's about acknowledging your authorship of your own experience, how you shape it right now.
So it's empowering, not blaming. It's about regaining agency in the present.
Precisely. It's about realizing you have choices now, even if you didn't back then.
Okay, so let's say you do the work. You gain insight, you take responsibility, you start to metaphorically close one of these unlatched doors. What happens then? Is everything suddenly perfect?
Oh, wouldn't that be nice? No, it's rarely about achieving some state of perfection. It's more about transformation. When you resolve an old issue, you're not erasing the past, but you are freeing up the energy that was trapped there.
Energy.
Yes, think of the energy it takes to hold that beach ball underwater, or the tension held in that knot in the tapestry. When the issue is resolved, that energy is released. It becomes available for living more fully in the present, for creativity, for new possibilities, like water released from a dam.
Ah, okay, so closing one door can have wider effects.
Absolutely. It often has a ripple effect. You might resolve a long-standing conflict with a sibling, for example, and find, surprisingly, that your friendships feel easier or you're more assertive at work. Or maybe letting go of the need for perfectionism in one area suddenly unlocks creativity in another. Our inner world is deeply interconnected.
So it's not just fixing one isolated problem.
Not at all. But it's also true that closing one door often reveals another one that was previously hidden.
Oh, great. More doors.
Well, yes. But maybe think of it less as a problem and more as just. The nature of growth. Human existence is dynamic. There will always be more to learn, more to integrate. It's a feature, not a bug.
That's a good way to frame it. This whole process sounds, well, it sounds quite deep, almost philosophical.
It certainly has philosophical dimensions. Gestalt psychology shares common ground with existentialist thought, particularly in its emphasis on personal freedom, choice, responsibility, and the search for authenticity.
Freedom from the past or freedom with the past?
More like freedom through understanding and accepting the past, not by denying it or trying to escape it. Liberation comes from integrating those experiences, acknowledging their impact, but not letting them dictate the present.
So the unlatched doors aren't just problems to be solved, they're invitations, thresholds.
Beautifully put. Invitations for growth, thresholds to greater self-understanding and potential. It's definitely not a neat linear process, though. There will be steps forward, moments of clarity, and times when you feel stuck again, or an old pattern resurfaces.
Right, like that quote, understand life backwards, but live it forwards.
Søren Kierkegaard, yes.
Oh.
It captures that feeling perfectly. We make sense of things in retrospect, but we have to navigate the present as it unfolds.
So as we wrap up, let's come back to that unlatched door metaphor. It started as this image of unfinished business, something nagging at us. But maybe we can see it differently now, not just as a problem, but maybe as an invitation to get curious.
I think that's a wonderful shift. Instead of seeing it and wanting to slam it shut or run away, what if you approached it with curiosity? What's behind this door? What feeling, what need, what memories asking for attention here?
So the questions become maybe, what am I ready to gently close the door on? And perhaps, what new doorways might open up as a result?
Exactly. What are you ready to release? And what becomes possible when you do? The answers don't usually come all at once, but emerge gradually through that process of insight and connection we talked about.
It really is an ongoing journey, isn't it? Deeply personal.
Absolutely. There's no universal map. It's about exploring your own unique inner landscape.
So maybe the encouragement for everyone listening is to approach their own unlatched doors, not with dread, but with a bit more curiosity.
Yes. Treat them not just as remnants of the past, but as potential portals to understanding why you are the way you are and uncovering the potential for who you might become.
A continuous journey of discovery. Very human.
Fundamentally human, yes.
Yeah.